Hello everybody, Wyatt Andrews Workshop here, and welcome back to yet another episode of Orewell Zoo. After a solid 3 months of building and not showing anything, or at least like not making any videos about Orewell Zoo, I'd say we are more than overdue for an episode, because again, I'd say about 3 months since the last video, and we've actually been building pretty much non-stop on the zoo's west side, so we're going to be seeing pretty much exclusively African stuff, but I'd say we've covered a lot of ground, both geographically and literally within the map, so yeah, I think an episode is long overdue. Even if not everything's finished, I felt the need to get something out there until the next one, so yeah. The first thing I want to point out is that we've actually got a new lamppost design. Another one is right behind us, but that would also be revealing something very cool, which we'll see in a second. But yeah, I think the last ones were very overbearing and like blocky. There's actually one over here. You can see the lamppost design that I originally had spread around the entire zoo, and I like it. I still do, but like I just can't have this around the entire park because I just think these would be so expensive to make and mass produce that it would just feel a little excessive. And even here I might go in and just like remove a couple because they're overbearing, I think, and ones that are more like this where they're kind of skinny and more understated I think are a lot more preferable. But we're gonna return to the ground. Let's see what we've been cooking up. So, this is the new entrance facade for the Primate house. Pretty much the only thing remaining from the original design is this cool sign that I made last year, as well as, of course, the big glass structure, because that's too important to the zoo to just remove. I actually did originally scrap it, and I made a new one that we'll actually see later in the episode. But that is now elsewhere, and I've decided this is too cool and too, like, historically important to the zoo to throw away. So, yeah, that's gonna stay there for now. But we also did start working on a new interior for it, and here I am again using the other lamppost design, because again, I still like it, and I think it works for big, important areas like this, like entrances to specific parts of the zoo. So I think that's where we'll be keeping it. As we go inside, and yeah, this is based on the Journey into Imagination Pavilion at Epcot / Disney World. Because this building, I've always wanted it to be originally set or built in the 60s, or just generally mid-century, and I just really wanted to hammer that in aesthetically. So I thought a lot of the pavilions in Epcot would be really good references for it. So yeah, as we go in. We've got a small donor wall here with a design borrowed from the what's it called? The North Island Passage, I think is what it's called, that area. It's just the girders with some text chopped around them. And then I've got this little chimpanzee custom board that I made for the old chimpanzee exhibit in the Africa Pavilion, but now it's here. So yeah. So as we come inside... Ooh, sorry. So I actually, this is actually version 3 of the Primate house, interior at least. Version 2 I actually built, like, just fully built, like, last summer, almost a year ago, which does not feel like it was done a year ago, but, yeah, it was kind of just like a better version of version 1, but it was still pretty much the same, like, in terms of its design. I just added some more polish to it, but I wasn't really happy with that, so this is what we have now. I've got these really cool, like, board structure thingies that are meant to, like, look like a forest canopy. I actually was inspired to do this when I visited, or, you know, not voluntarily visited, but went through the airport in Atlanta, Georgia, on my way home one time, and there's this really cool, like, it's like I don't know what to call it. It's like an escalator, but you're going horizontal the whole time. That kind of thing. It's like a mobility device of some kind, just to like help you relax. But like the room it was in was just, the ceiling was full of these, and they had like cool lighting going through them. and it was super cool and immersive. And like in my traveling, I was just like, oh, this is cool. Like I stopped to admire it. It was really inspiring. So like when I was doing this interior, I like looked up, like I was trying to find this, and I eventually found it and recreated it to the best of my ability. I think it looks really dope, especially with these bamboo supports. No, not really supports, but they're just meant to look like this is the bamboo and then these are the leaves for it. But that is obviously not the focus of what's going on in here. We've got these two indoor exhibits, one for colobus monkeys, also known as gorizas, mantled goriza, and mandrill. I don't know where the colobus went, but oh, okay. Yeah, just put me on the roof, no big deal. Might as well show off the roof though. It's looking pretty groovy. Still need to install some more HVAC stuff, but it's not a huge priority at the moment. This guy is walking in my garden. Please don't. But yeah, this place is usually crawling with them. But my original idea is this would very much be like the old primate house, but in these like rooms you would originally have stuff like great apes, chimps and orangutans and stuff. But they eventually just put smaller monkeys in here as they realized the space would be inefficient for them. And here they start to come in. But these are actually not their like holding facilities. These are just like night/cold weather rooms for the monkeys. And you can see their outdoor facilities over there. But we'll get to those in a second. Are these guys gonna come in and hang out with us? Hello. So this is by Narwhaler, I'm pretty sure, and it still holds up really nicely. We used to, well actually no, last time we saw an exhibit for colobus in Orewell Zoo, it was in the gorilla area, Gorilla Canyon, and I don't think the mod existed at the time, so we were using female proboscis monkeys. I'm pretty sure. We'll go back and look at that episode and see if we actually had the colobus mod at that point, but I'm pretty sure we didn't. But yeah, they're just coming in, hanging out here. I've got this really nice fake tree, and then these liana vines, you'll see a lot more of these going forward because I think they're just absolutely amazing and so useful. They look just the right amount of fake to me that I find their utility potential very good. Words. And then another thing you might notice is I'm using a lot of these metal beams, and these are actually part of the climbing frames that were originally released with the Siamangs last year with the conservation pack. And let me find the other ones. Metal. Yeah, these things. But they just have like this one, this singular beam that you can move around. I don't know if free build allows me to do this or if you could just do this the whole time, but yeah, I think these are awesome and so useful if I'm trying to like not make everything so naturalistic. Like it works really well in here, which is just a simple utilitarian interior. And then these walls are actually made of the wall windows in the base game. I just think they have a really nice gritty texture. It means I don't really have to place down the surface decals unless I want to, which I actually do intend to come in here and kind of dirty everything up a little. But yeah, so this is the one for the colobuses, and you can see their outdoor facility through this really cool window. Because I like to give my primates, or just animals in general, I like to give them sunlight whenever possible. It's just a nice thought for me that they get to enjoy sunlight. Even if they're cooped up in here during the winter, they still get to enjoy the sun. And I've got a similar thing going on here, but this is also for like ventilation and air circulation. So like, it's just like for that purpose, yeah. So these windows, you could open them just to get some fresh air in here, which is also kind of a priority for me in terms of exhibit design. I like giving my animals sunlight and fresh air. And then I have this like mesh over all of it just so they can't like get out through the windows. So like this is as high as they could get, and they could still enjoy the fresh air without being able to escape. So yeah, in here I want to do shifakas. That'll be my other primate in this little exhibit, but ended up not getting to that. And then I have these signs. So we've got the billboard for the animal itself, some information there by common and binomial names. And then I've got this little blob here, which is meant to represent like their range in the wild. I didn't look up like what their range looks like, but I just thought like this would get the job done, and I've got a different one for the mandrills too, just so it's not the same. Speaking of which, these guys are, I really like the way these guys are interacting with this exhibit. They're really climbing around, which is nice to see. They wanna, there we go. I don't remember having, are there 3 of them stacked up? No, it's just 2. But you guys want to move? No? There you go. But these mandrills are actually very old because they're from the original like file of Orewell Zoo, which I think like, yeah, I don't know if these guys came, because I started this like specific map as a franchise zoo, so I don't know if these guys are from that map specifically, but they're definitely from like day 1 of the project. Yes, this guy's 147 years old. So yeah, and I've got the mandrill exhibit sort of has less verticality to it, just because that's kind of the way they are. They aren't really doing much like super high arboreal activity, unlike the colubuses. So like that's what we've got going on in here. But with the mandrills, like they're a lot heavier, and just sort of they tend to be more low to the ground. So that's sort of what we've got going on in here. Maybe this could have been like the historical gorilla exhibit, just because gorillas are kind of similar. Like they can climb, but they're bigger, so they aren't as comfortable on like in super high branches. So that's kind of what we got going on here. And then we've got some of these leaves strewn about, which are also from the tropical pack, which looking back came out a little over a month ago. Was just an amazing addition in terms of this kind of scenery. You've got more of these lianas sprinkled around. And then they also have access to an outdoor facility, which we'll be seeing in a minute. But they seem to be quite cozy in here, which is okay with me. And then over here, there's their sign, similar idea. We've got what I want to have inside of here is a walkthrough exhibit for gibbons. It's going to be like a huge naturalistic greenhouse, and the gibbons will just be able to climb all over the place. And I'm going to use the Lar gibbons, which we got in the tropical pack, and which was a super nice addition because the Siamangs aren't quite as versatile in terms of like just being in places and zoos. They're a little bigger and a little less common, so yeah. The Lar gibbons, though, are very common in captivity, which will be nice to have. So yeah, and then so the gibbon forest, guests will be able to either like once they're done with it, they'll be either to come back in here or they'll be able to come out this way. And there'll be like a small eating area here, and they get to continue on their way. Oh, sorry, a little tired. Oh, we should have a yawn counter. But here I am starting to use more of the current model of lampposts, and I've got this really beautiful sort of promenade area. But before we look into that, we have a little offhand exhibit. Hello, Mr. Elephant. So this is the Wallace R. Daffin crane exhibit, and yeah, it's pretty much what it says on the can. It's just a little offshoot crane exhibit. I wanted to put something in here. Originally, I had an area called the Elephant Trails, and this was actually the site. Oh, that's why everything's moving so fast. I have it on 3x speed. Never mind. Is it 3 times? It's 5 times. I didn't know that. But there was originally an area here called the Elephant Trails, and this was the site of a lowland Anoa exhibit. But that's not there anymore. I just thought it was too much. I wanted something a little more like low-key. And my like design philosophy at the time of building that exhibit was very like lawns and like rock work and just sort of no real naturalism or immersion whatsoever. But I've kind of changed my tune on that. I'm sort of now more focusing on industrial and naturalistic aesthetics. So yeah, this is where that came from. The remnants of it are over here where we've got... where we've got this exhibit, so we've got like a little pheasant aviary, which I built like coming up on 2 years ago. Like this is a 1.5 years old, but I never got around to showing it. And then this is the sign for it. The font I was using for the trails part was modded, so ended up removing that. But you would be able to come up here and view the elephants from this vantage point, and then there was a big winding trail that had like a stellar sea eagle aviary. And there was a red panda exhibit over here that's now long gone. and it was all just too much for me. It was starting to get a little over budget for my like interest level. So it's all gone now. I have no idea what I'm going to do with this area. I'm actually going to completely re-landscape the elephant exhibit and just see what I can keep. Like this pool will probably, the design of that will probably change. What I do want to keep though is being able to see the elephants behind the cranes. And another thing I want to change is the population in this exhibit. Monsoon on Bro Nation informed me that this is entirely too many cranes to have in a single exhibit because they are quite territorial. So I would probably have to stick with a pair, which is fine by me. But yeah, so we've got this sort of main walking area where you can see them, and I like how I changed the texture to be the boardwalk instead of the concrete. I just thought that would be fun. But then over here, there's this little isolated glass viewing area where you get to see them up close. And then I'm going to have information stuff over here. So yeah, that's the crane exhibit. It's a little themed, just a little bit themed. I like some subtle theming here and there, depending on the exhibit. And then over here, you get to see the outdoor facilities for the monkeys. And I just love all of this landscaping and the curb, which I've also made out of windows. And then I really like that I've got the drainage and stuff over here. And then you start to see me incorporating tropical planting without it being permanent, which I think is good because this zoo takes place in the Midwest. So all of these palms and stuff are potted and could be removed and put in a safe greenhouse when things get a little too cold. There he goes again. But this is the outdoor facility for the colubuses. Colubi? I'm going to say colubuses. If you couldn't tell, I imagine most people couldn't, but it's based on an exhibit that was originally meant for red-shanked Duke Langer at the San Diego Zoo. It's kind of adjacent to the Sun Bear Forest exhibit, but I loved the design of this exhibit. And it's actually one I remembered even when I was little, when we went to the zoo, and I was like, oh, this one looks kind of interesting. It's just this like big industrial cage structure with these really cool supports on the side, and I just thought it was so neat, and I wanted to incorporate it somehow. So there's kind of like two separate yards for the colobus to enjoy. There's one here and one here. You'll be able to see this one on the other side of whatever this is. But yeah, and then they've got a slightly more natural design for their climbing structure on the outside. I just thought it'd be a little more appealing. And then I've brought over their sign from the inside of the primate house. Let me actually look in here. So the way it works is they've got their day interior, and then they'd be able to come through here, this little tube, and this would lead into their holding facility, which is decidedly not going to be constructed. And then they have this like outdoor space and then this outdoor space. And I actually want I should make like an airlock system for this, because like they would need to be like, if they needed to be separated, like you would have this and then you'd have the airlock system, and then you could open, there should be a door here too. That's what I'm trying to get at. Like there should be a door here, and they would be fully like airlocked into whichever space they needed them to be. And it's also possible that they could just bring in like a second species of monkey if they wanted to and put them in either one of these, but it's just designed to be like flexible. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Coming down here, so for reference as to where we are in the zoo, don't look at that yet. So here's the Riverside Bar and Grill and Sweet Treats booth, and then there's the Elephant Community Center, which was all viewable in the Gorilla Canyon episode. However, I was not happy with the Gorilla Canyon. It was just kind of too bare bones, and the scale was generally off. Like everything was too big, pretty much in that zone. So it's all completely scrapped, and in its place is Gorilla 360. Woo-hoo. So Gorilla 360 is an area that incorporates a lot of the same references and philosophies as Gorilla Canyon. I assume it would have been built like the exact same time. It was meant to just sort of be a natural extension to the Primate house, because the gorillas would have been originally kept inside of the Primate house, but they realized they needed a more dedicated outdoor facility for them. So this was built, and it has the same sponsor, US Bank. And yeah, we've got this really groovy sign for them. And if you look closely, you see that I made a gorilla like drawing out of font pieces. Let me see if I can like uncover it really quickly, because we've got all these numbers behind it. Come on, please. I just want to show the gorilla. We don't need to take care of all of it. But yeah, check that out. This is something I realized I could do. I take a billboard and then I literally just trace it with font pieces. It's that simple. I think anyone can do it. It's really fun and quite easy. It's a little bit time consuming, but it's not like a challenging thing to do in my opinion. It's mostly just time consuming, but very worth it in my opinion. Yeah, so Gorilla 360, let's check it out. Excuse me, folks. So as you can see, the like vibe immediately changes. We've got actually I want to look at the outdoor cages from here because I just think this is so pretty. Anyways, yeah, so the vibe immediately changes. You start getting like mud banks, and like the type of path changes, and it's this sort of more muted tone, earthiness vibe, and you get all these cracks in it, which is something I noticed in a lot of like themed areas, is that they've got this like stony, like earthy looking path, and then they've put like cracks in it just to make it feel a little more natural and lived in. And then this has suddenly become one of my favorite vistas in the whole park. Yeah, like that. There we go. So you've got like this little opening where you can see the clock tower, and then you've got this neat little monkey statue, which is just the Japanese macaque, but I put a little tail on it using the egg pieces, which is a little technique I came up with when I was building in Tharmashadi. But yeah, it also looks really cool this way. So like the plant palette has changed, the theming has changed, the scenery has changed, and I've got like a bunch of these custom roots coming out of the trees, and then I've also got the lianas strewn about, and pretty much all of these trees are supposed to be temperate. Like these are all like oaks and beech trees that have like pretty much been here the whole time, but I've made them feel tropical by just adding the root systems and then getting these vines strewn about. And these vines probably wouldn't even be real, like they would just be like, I assume it would be like a wire, and they would just cover the whole thing in like plaster or clay and just paint over it, and it immediately gets the point across without having to like bring in a bunch of tropical foliage, which would be really costly and unrealistic. Then we've got this nice little wooden fence here, and I've like started varying up the types of fences I use in my areas, which you might have noticed in some of my recent work. So I've got this like metal bar handlebar fence here, but then I've also got this wooden mesh fence, and I think just mixing the two in addition to like rock work and stuff is really fun. And then I've got a bunch of leaves strewn about. I'm varying up the type of paths we use every once in a while, just to break it all up, make it feel organic and cool. So this is that second colobus cage. I really don't like using the word cage, but that's what this is. And so this is where it's viewable from. You get a lot of build up to the gorillas themselves, and I just think it looks really neat. And I love the just the thickness of the canopy I've managed to establish here, using these London plane trees as well, which are also, I've really come around to these. I think they look great. And then, you know, stringing the vines around just to make it all feel nice and tropical. And then I've got these bird decals, which I've put around the glass. I might simplify these, just I think they're a little bit clunky, but it doesn't really matter right now. I've got a nice little riverbed keeping the guests and animals apart, even though there's a barrier. I just thought it'd be a nice little extra fun thing to do. Oh, and then these basket ferns. So there's the basket ferns, and then the leaves. There's some basket ferns, and then these Kentia palms, which just look so freaking good. And then I've got these tetrastigma vines as well. Like, we've been needing all of these so badly, and I'm in love with everything we've gotten in the new tropical pack. So yeah, moving onwards. This would be the entrance to the holding for the colobus and mandrills. Just a simple little setup: garage door, regular door, and then we've got this this gate here, and this would open up, and this would open up, and then this links over to the service road. So trucks could just back into here, bringing in and out any supplies or animals as need be. And then we pass over this way. Things are starting to get very jungly. But then I still love that there's this big, like, and I just know people wouldn't like this, but like it's become like part of my personal aesthetic to just like mix the industrial and the natural as much as I can, because I'm just so fascinated by both. So we've got this like big, like garish metal barred cage glass structure against all this like really like fun, tasteful landscaping, and it's just such a fascinating dichotomy to me that I can't help but like illustrate it in my work. And I'm bringing over the same trash can design that I've got around the entire zoo, as well as the lamppost, just to remind you that you are in fact in a zoo. Just having the logo around helps like a lot. It's really fun. But then coming over this way, another thing I've noticed in like zoos and like theme parks that are meant to have like sort of foresty tropical themes is that they like incorporate the benches and seating into the rockwork itself. So you could just come here and have a seat and check out the outdoor stuff facility for the mandrills. And I don't think they're going to come out here. I mean, I can grab one real quick. Let's go do that. So it's a similar system for the colubuses. They'd come through this little tunnel, and the holding facility would be in here. And then their like night or their day/weather quarters would be in here in the primate house. But if this guy wants to hop on this hammock here, we can check them out in their outdoor part. And I'm trying to determine how like temperature controlled these cages would be, because we've got these little panels that come up, and they are also fronted with mesh so the primates can't get out, and these would be for like temperature control and just fresh air and stuff like that, especially in the event of a fire or like a similar emergency. Like you could open these up just to allow the smoke to get out, which I think would be good just to prevent any like further disaster. Because that's another thing that's been on my mind is like, you know, these are structures, these are like man-made structures, and they're prone like things can and do go wrong. So like you have to take that into account when you're building and like designing stuff, which I've been trying my best to do, because I think it would be absolutely devastating if like there was a fire broke out in the zoo, which has happened in other primate facilities in like Pittsburgh, and there was one in Europe that I'm forgetting the name of, and that's just like the worst thing imaginable to me. So I'm just like trying my best to design like and prepare for that kind of thing. So yeah, on a less sour note, our mandrills are using this quite well. Like look at him go, he's jumping around. I'm really liking how the roots twirled around the metal structures look. I just think that's super, super cool. And then I've got some more tropical looking plants just sort of strewn about the bottom. And then these exhibits are also accessible from the outside. So we've got these doors here, and staff can come in here if need be. Because if this door wasn't here, there'd be no way for people to get in here. And like, what if an animal is stuck or sick, or just like needs to be accessed for some reason, or like just like injured, and you would need to come in here and collect them, which you wouldn't be able to do through here because this is for the animals only. And I've got a similar thing going on with the colobus. I don't know, where's the door for this? No? Oh, wait. Oh, I see. I just covered this up with plaster because this is all going to be implied. But I've got another door here, and then they could come through and access this. I feel like I should have a door like just for this this cage specifically, but I'll deal with that later. So yeah, I'm just keeping that kind of stuff in mind. So coming back out, checking out the mandrills. This isn't the only thing you can see in this area. And I'm still trying to figure out signage for this area. Like that's kind of the last thing I want to do for these sorts of builds is do all the interpretation stuff. Not because it's an afterthought, but just because I want to put down all the bones before I get that kind of soft tissue kind of stuff in there. So yeah, that's the mandrills. And then over here is one of my new favorite little exhibits in the zoo. Let's see if they show themselves. So we've got red river hogs in here, but this was meant to be... Hello, guys? Hello? Anybody home? Get out of explore mode real quick. Oh, copies, and of course they're in the back. So yeah, this is my this is intended to be an Okapi exhibit. We do have a red river hog exhibit, which we'll see later, but they managed to breed out of control. So I just wanted to divert some of the population into another exhibit that would work without clogging up the trade center. So yeah, this is the Okapi exhibit. Because Okapis are so shy, I've got this is meant to be like sort of a naturalist hide, which is sort of a crudely constructed structure where people researching animals can view them without the animals noticing and getting freaked out. So that's kind of what we've got going on here. And then we've got this wire barrier preventing them from coming up to the guests. But I love how I've got this big mossy log with fungus on it growing and all these little smaller twigs strewn about. It's just so like that's the kind of theming I like to do. It's a lot less like themed architecture and more like how can I immerse people in the nature. But then I've also got this little thatch structure. I just thought it'd be fun to use because I've never used these before, but I think it works quite nicely. As you can tell, this is decidedly unfinished. I'm going to have a holding facility over here and more barriers, of course. But I'm happy with the way this looks now. And I love that you can kind of see the glass structure of the primate house peeking out from back there. And then I've got another really cool, like this would be a sculpture. Like this wouldn't be real. But this really cool log. Nice mossy log. Or it's a tree at this point because it's standing up. But yeah. And then speaking of big glass structures, you can see the beginnings of one back there. We'll find out what that's supposed to be in a minute. But then over here, I almost missed this. I did want to do this, like this was something I came up with like when I was building the exhibit. It's based on one at Animal Kingdom, which I learned about via the Zoo Tours video about this area. I think it's called the Gorilla Falls. It's just comparing okapis and giraffes because okapis are members of the giraffe family. And I'm using the same thing where I use font pieces to just trace over. Although in this case, I don't think I used billboards. I just kind of looked at reference images and just kind of drew them from there freehand. But I think they came out really nicely still. And I'm using some hatching to make it look like shading, which is just, it looks super dope in my opinion. So yeah. Oh, and then this is another view I really like. This feels very San Diego Zoo to me. Not only because the cage is based on the one at the zoo, but just like I vividly remember seeing these like little mud bank barriers and all the landscaping on top of them in like the Tiger River area, and just like the lushness I've managed to achieve here. It's all so beautiful. So coming this way, we've got a little sneak peek into the gorillas. They're not showing up. And I need to do some landscaping here, but I wasn't really sure what to do with this area. It's just kind of a intermediary walkway, so I thought I'd provide some little glimpses into their exhibit. Again, quite unfinished. And I've got another mossy log sculpture here. But coming this way, anything else I'm missing? Nope. Coming this way, we've got this really pretty like slope downward as you get to the gorillas, and I've managed to sprinkle some satellite exhibits, one of which is the Red River Hog. So this is what I meant to be the Red River Hog exhibit. Like I'm not gonna put anything else in here. But this is like quickly become one of my new favorite enclosures in the zoo. It's just so me. I love it. So we've got these mud walls that are, I really like this sort of red iron rich dirt that I've got going in this specific exhibit, which I think makes sense because you've got the Red River Hogs. But then I've got this branch obscuring all of it. But surrounding the whole thing, I've got this really like ugly industrial mesh / glass fence, which is something I've been using for a lot of my small animal exhibits. I should probably make sure like this guy can't get up here because he could totally just walk out this way, but that's okay. It's still a work in progress. And I love using different like types of the stalactites to get the mud walls working. So I've got I thought this was a red river hog, and I thought it was walking on the branch. And I was like, no way. But we've got stalactite 1, which is just this little bob. But then stalactite 2 is this much larger one, and when you turn it upside down, I think it works really nice as like the sort of the lower half of this wall, because you've got the mud kind of like, this is supposed to be like a riverbed, so you've got like the banks of it which sort of like jut out a little, but then you've got the lower part which is just this like downward slope, and I think stalactite 2 works really well for that specific purpose. And then I've got a little drainage here because this is sort of the lowest point of the exhibit, so this is where all the water would flow, and it would just get in here, and I don't really want this to become a pond, so yeah. And then I've got a bunch of the leaves strewn about, which is something I also did in the Okapi exhibit, just completely covering the ground, which I think looks extremely cool and realistic, as if, because you're at like the forest floor, so you've got all of these trees and all of the leaves are just going to feed right into here. But I've also got some of the surface decals, and I'm using them as like additional like sand and substrate, which is like sort of intermixed with the leaves, and it just gives a super cool effect. Although it kind of screws with the traversable area, like the river hogs don't really move around that much. So just keep that in mind if you're wanting to replicate this technique. So yeah, so this is like part of the Red River Hog exhibit. And then I also got the strangler fig roots within the mud walls, which also looks super, super cool. Pardon my my blueprint mess in the back. This is all going to be covered up by trees soon. And then over here, I've got the other side of it, which they don't really seem to want to move over to, but that's okay. And then I've just got a lot of the same ideas going. This is just so pretty to me. And I love how I've got this ivy over the otherwise wooden, simple man-made fence. It's just a nice way to cover it up without being too over budget. And then this is going to be their holding facility, which is also decidedly a work in progress. Another thing I really like is that the service road comes like directly behind this exhibit. And I also want this to be the road that the tram tour goes on. So if you're on the tram tour, you can just like, it'll make a stop and you can just look down and see the Red River Hogs this way, which I think is going to look super cool from both directions. But I also like that you can see the service vehicles coming behind the exhibit too, as well as the big hill, which is going to be where the Himalayan section is. That's all just going to look super, super nice when it's done. But yeah, I had a lot of trouble like figuring out what to do with this area because it's just a big stretch of path. But you can make it exciting by just like breaking it up with little bits of landscaping in the middle, and then also the satellite exhibits, of course, because you've just got this like big stretch of fence, which was looking really ugly, and it was just it was a big challenge to like figure out how to dress it up nicely. So continuing down the way, I've got another satellite exhibit for this is meant to be for black-capped mangabe, which is a type of monkey in the African forest, and they look very similar to Francois Langer, which we do have a mod for, although the mod was I think it was broken, so I had to take these guys out. They just weren't really moving or using the climbing structure at all. And this very nice netted structure, I actually have just Goron to thank for. This is only part of a really big one he released on the workshop, but he's going to have a tutorial on how to make these very soon, so I'll soon be able to just make my own. So yeah, not a whole lot to say about this one. This was kind of not an afterthought, but just something like I quickly came up with in order to fill this space, so it's not a huge deal, but I still quite like how it looks. And then I've got some just very nice landscaping strewn all the way about. But then coming in here, we get to a very exciting part. So this is all like unfinished. I'm gonna have a gift shop that's gonna be like gorilla / jungle themed. And then coming through this way, this is what I want to be the holding facility for gorillas and chimps. I'm calling it the Great Ape Research Institute, or Gary for short. The Gary Center, or I think I might just call it Gary because like you don't want to call it Institute Center. Although I'll figure it out. We're still workshopping it. But so yeah, this is where they would come to sleep and rest for the night. But I also want this to be like a very thorough, like as in the name, research institute. So there's going to be a lot of like observation spaces and like classrooms for just people of all ages to like learn and conduct research about great apes, and it's going to be super amazing when it's done. And guests will be able to come like through the research institute. I'm thinking this is going to be like a general path through it if you don't really want to check it out. But this is going to come out and it's going to start the Himalayan area. So that's how people are going to be able to access that, or at least like one way, because it's going to be a loop. So there'll be another way to sort of start that journey. But this is going to be a gift shop. And then over here, I want to have like a little seating, not auditorium, but just like some additional seating. And I'm going to have like a projected video about gorillas and stuff and the world they live in. But you're probably wondering, like, what's above all of this? Well, if we come this way and out into this amazing building, we get the namesake of the area. This is Gorilla 360. Wyatt, you madman, how did you do this? So, this is directly ripped from the Congo, or like the main viewing area for the Congo Gorilla Forest at the Bronx Zoo, which, in my opinion, is the best gorilla exhibit in the world, and just one of the best like zoo exhibits in general. I visited it almost a few years back, and I was just absolutely spellbound by how thorough it was. But yeah, this is Gorilla 360. The exhibit, like the Congo Gorilla Forest, this viewing area is not like 360 degrees. Like you just sort of come in this way, and it's like a partially circular viewing area. But I wanted to just take it a step further and make it fully circular, which was ambitious, but I think it paid off quite nicely. So you come through here, and then all of like this little chunk of it is not using terrain. It's using like grass, like the grass pieces and the mulch pieces and the rock pieces, just so it's like a nice thin like barrier. Not a barrier, but it's like a roof over all of this stuff. And then so like I'm like rambling explaining the logistics of it, but like this is where the exhibit starts right here. But it's all above the gift shop and stuff, if that makes sense. So yeah, and then you'd come up here and check out all of the monkey business. And I can say that because gorillas, along with all other apes, are monkeys. They are not like a separate group of animals. They're just a type of monkey that is usually larger and doesn't have a tail. So there's your animal fact for the day. But like Congo Gorilla Forest, I just wanted to make this super thorough and naturalistic and beautiful, like the real inspiration. And we actually have an albino gorilla in here, which I imagine would be a very big like standpoint of marketing for the zoo. They seem to quite enjoy walking on this log, which is fun. And yeah, this is it. I've got similar to a lot of this like design philosophy was inspired by Congo Gorilla Forest, because that is in the Bronx in New York State, New York City, which is a very much temperate / boreal part of the world. But they managed to keep their gorillas outside, and in order to make it convincing in this temperate forest, they've got all the vines strewn about, which I was kind of talking about earlier, and they've like got like planted stuff, and they've got like ferns and other grasses and bamboo, like hardy things that can exist all over the world, but also happen to be in tropical places, but can exist in more temperate climates. So that's sort of what you've got to do in order to make this all work. So we've got like all these branches strewn around and all these trees, and if I was a gorilla, I'll be honest, I'd be pretty happy in here. But then it's raining. You know what? Let it rain. I want this to be a little more immersive. But in order to support the structure, I've got these cables that are attached to these fake trees. And in order for the gorillas to not just climb up here and swing onto the roof, I've got some of these trees surrounded by hot wire. And I actually need to put a bracket here, but I've got it on some of the others, so I just need to get around to it. But I am just so freaking chuffed with all of this, and it's not even done. So this exhibit is broken into 3 separate yards. So this is a bachelor yard for a few male gorillas, and then I need to close off this fence, but it is 3 separate exhibits. And then this one is a more general family yard, and this one has a lot more going on, a lot less nature, a lot more like functional architecture, and I think the rain has managed to drive out the gorillas because they're usually right up front here. So let's see if we can coax them to be a little more active. Here they come. Hello. But I've still got a lot of I'd say like the I tried to make the 3 yards different. So this one is a lot more just like forest, natural forest. But then this one I've got a bit more emphasis on climbing. So there's a bunch of ropes and climbing frames and this big log sculpture, and a lot more rock work too, artificial rock work. Unfortunately, they don't seem to use the ropes very much, if at all. I've never seen them do it, even though they're made of bamboo, which is a climbable material. But that's okay. I still really love how this looks. I love this little area where I've got this tree and the roots are strewn all about this rock work. I don't even know if this would be a real tree. And I've got more of the vines, and it's all very backlit, which is usually kind of a problem for me. Like, I don't like how a lot of things in the game look backlit, but I like just like the subtle like indications of roots and rocks and sticks and animals. It's all very dramatic and cool looking, and you can see the Gary Center in the back there, and the gorillas just kind of pop in and out every once in a while. It all just looks so freaking cool. And then you can see the primate house too. Looks great. And then this is yard number 3. This is the one I've done the least amount of work on. I'm still trying to figure out like how I want to approach it in terms of scenery, but I think that's for another day. And then here you can see me figuring out how to like keep the yard separate. So I've got this big mud wall in front, but then I've also got this this gate here, which could be opened electronically, and it would shift the gorillas and rotate them in and out. Which I assume that's how it would work. The gorillas would rotate between these yards. They wouldn't just be sticking to one, because that wouldn't be quite as enriching. And then I've got a similar thing going on here. Whoop, almost fell right into the pit. So you've got this mud wall, and then there's the rotation gate. But yeah, I'm just trying to like, oh, that should not be poking through the glass. There we go. But yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how to like keep these nice and immersive, even in this big even this giant piece of architecture. But then I've got this like little platform where you can sort of just get up high and maybe look over people's heads, because I assume this would be a very busy part of the zoo, just because it's kind of a crossroads for 2 major areas. But yeah, there's our Gorilla 360. And I'm gonna fill this, like, I've been designing like signage and interpretation for this area, which I'll put up, but I'm very excited to get working on that, because it's gonna look super cool once it's all dressed up. But then another thing I think looks great is the way this all looks from above. It's just this like big concrete dome poking out of the jungle, and I think it looks extremely dope. I can't wait to just like, I want to finish yard number 3. I'm gonna finish the Gary Center, and I'm gonna have the Okapis here, more like the holding facility for the Okapis. And then the chimps are going to be over here, and that's how they'll feed into the Gary Center, and the gorillas will come in this way. And it's just all going to look so good when it's done. I'm so excited. And I'm just now realizing that originally I was going to also look at stuff we've done in the Africa Pavilions area, but I think we've got more than enough, and my voice is already getting rather tired. So I think we're just going to end it here, and we'll immediately record another episode for the Africa Pavilion, and we'll get that out a little ways after this one comes out and is complete in terms of the YouTube cycle. So yeah, I'll see you guys on that second part of the adventure, and have a good one.